I should know the black Paul Haggis in the movie.
You should.
Mm-hmm. Because he's like a famous actor.
Oh yeah.
Well, because that's like
Wait, what?
there's a black Paul Haggis in the movie where he wrote
the TV guy, the movie guy.
Yeah, because the inspiration for the movie. Are we recording?
We are recording.
Okay, the inspiration for the movie was him getting carjacked. Even a famous TV writer would get carjacked. Co-creator of Texas Walker Ranger could get carjacked. Can you believe that?
Maybe we should save this for the episode.
Yeah, now just because we're recording doesn't mean we should talk about Paul Haggis getting carjacked, because now I got to go all the way back here and find the clip of us talking about it, and then I got to drag it to wherever we're talking about it later after Marc does his little intro.
I figure you do this all the time, where you you'll take something from the amorphous intro and use it as the actual intro.
Yeah, I do it, but it sucks to do.
Oh.
Yeah, why is it always harder to get started when we don't have a guy in Portugal in a hotel that we have to like meet for the first time and exchange pleasantries with?
I'm finding it way easier to start.
Let's go. Let's
do it.
All right. Season 5.
Season 5. We're back. We never stop. It's you who stop.
Hello, and welcome to Unwatchables, the podcast mirror we hold up to reality and the hammer with which we shape it.
Whoa.
I am Marc Dottavio.
I'm Seth Troyer, and I'll be your mirror.
And today, we're kicking off Season 5 with a special pre-Oscars episode where we ask the question, are these the worst Best Picture winners? Both of these films caused controversy when they unexpectedly took home the statue, and both happen to be a white liberal filmmaker's attempt at exploring and possibly healing racism in America. What could go wrong? We will discuss the Oscars in general, why these films won, and if either of them is actually the most embarrassing movie ever celebrated by the Academy. They are Paul Haggis's 2004 ensemble drama, Crash, and Peter Farrelly's 2018 buddy road movie, Green Book. And here we are. It's good to be back.
It is good to be back.
We're all here together in a room.
I want to thank the Academy and God and racism for bringing these movies to us.
And William Morris Endeavor Agency.
And Tony. Tony's here with us.
Yeah, we're keeping it in-house today.
Yeah, we got through all of the shitty movies, and we had to take a little break and wait for them to make some new ones. And in the time since we've been gone, they made around 1,000 more of them, and so we get to resume this.
Yeah, it's been a nice break. It's been a little bit longer than we usually take.
My brain is healing.
We've watched so many good movies together, like in the meantime.
I know. We forgot what it's like to just consistently have a lovely diet of movies that please you.
Yeah, we basically took 2 months off, and over that 2 months, I got to watch Marc's average Letterboxd score slowly recover from the podcast. And then I'm sure now it'll continue to.
It rocketed. We've been going through all these Criterion Blu-rays that I've been hoarding, which are all like my favorite movies. So we've all just been watching like Blood Simple and The Umbrellas of Cherbourg.
Exotica.
It's been great.
5 stars. Enjoyable times. Cartoons.
I've even been trying to make Seth watch the Oscar movies.
Because I'm so bad at watching new movies. You know how many old movies there are? It's like how many more dead people there are than living people. It's like, how do I even begin to deal with all these living people and new movies?
Too many dead movies.
That's the problem with movies and with music. Although they do still make good music every year pretty reliably, movies,
yeah,
it's pretty touch and go.
Music still pretty cool.
Yeah, and actually for the Oscars this year, like the ones we've been watching so far have been like the good ones, and there's a number of really good movies. Actually, most of like my favorite movies of last year are kind of the big contenders this year. So that's been an experience too. We have a lot more to go still, but
yeah, so far we've had a lot in common for once, because Marc and I quite often go part ways on a lot of movies. And one of them was One Battle After Another, that's a whole podcast in itself, but I've found that interesting that we both avoided going to see it with the other person because, well, I was like, I don't want to go with Mark. He's going to be like, this sucks. I'm going to ruin your time. And then Mark said that he didn't want to go with me because I was just going to love it no matter what and be a big dope. And
Like the rest of the world, I mean, to be fair.
yeah, but you know what? I'm not the rest of the world. Mark and I are actually a lot more similar than we think.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's a lot like Green Book, kind of like me and Mark.
Less like Crash, more like Green Book.
One Battle After Another was a lot like Green Book for us in that we found a lot of common grounds that we like actually don't really like that movie.
Oh, you just gave me an incredible Photoshop idea for the YouTube thumbnail for the video version of this episode that you're going to have to stop me from doing.
Are you going to put me in blackface?
Well, I haven't decided which of you I'm going to put in blackface, but one of you's got to be in the back seat. One of you's got to be driving the car.
Oh, God.
Mark's definitely the fancy jazz player, so I'm definitely the fat Italian guy.
I think we look better in the Crash poster with him dragging me out of the exploding car while I wail with tears of understanding and racial harmony.
Hey, you know. So, Tony, you're our guest this week. So that must mean that you have a new book coming out and you're moving from New York to Los Angeles, or is it from Los Angeles to New York?
Yeah, so I'm going on a book tour in support of my latest book on racial tension in America that I wrote based on my experiences as a white guy.
Another white voice heard from.
We did it.
And you're going to get 3 more today commenting on these movies.
It's not just my voice. I interviewed hundreds of other white people for this project. We should pause real quick though. When is this coming out? Is this coming out
Next
before
Tuesday.
the Oscars live stream? So we should use this opportunity to talk about the live stream.
We should. Not your book. And I'm sorry to all like 70% of our guests that I just insulted with that little joke. I'm just a little Ohio guy. I got to make these jokes.
So yeah, if you want to hear us talk about One Battle After Another and Bugonia, and hopefully we'll be getting to Marty Supreme and Sinners, all those movies that we normally wouldn't talk about on the podcast, we will actually have something to discuss while we're watching the Oscars. So that could be something fun. And join us and go into the chat, and then you can tell us yourself which one of us is wrong. Or if we're both wrong, if we happen to agree.
We might be right.
Yeah, we'll start at like 7 p.m. ish, something like that. If this will be on YouTube, and we'll post a link to it. If you are listening to this, you know how to find us, and wherever you found this is where you'll find that link. And we're on all night talking while they do the whole dog and pony show.
Uncut, uncensored.
And I thought
nudity.
Maybe before we get into these movies, if we could just talk a little bit about the Oscars, because that doesn't really come up on the main show a lot, even though we've done the live stream for quite a while. Like, I don't know, did either of you ever care about the Oscars? Like when I was little and in high school, I mean, it was very exciting for me. Like it was always a Sunday night, so I'd be staying up on a school night as it went hours over schedule.
Well,
it seemed very consequential in a way that it doesn't now. And I don't know if that's me or if that's actually how the Oscars have changed over the years.
Well, back when I was a child and believed in the imaginary hierarchy of everything and that God existed and that like awards mattered and that mainstream culture mattered, it meant a whole lot more to me. Now I'm all broken. I don't know. Most of the time they wind up being bad movies too. Or like you just have one too many times where the movies you actually cared about didn't get anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not a good measure of what the best movies are of a year, or even the most important movies. Or if you look back through the list over the years of like even movies that anybody remembers at all anymore.
Yeah, but I do have a good time with it. I think people rip into it too much. We've gone too far. Like, we get it. There's no God. It's all silly. This is like a bunch Brad Pitt slapping himself on the back. But at the same time, it's kind of fun. Like, look at all those guys in the audience. Can't believe they actually exist. And I don't know. It's fun. What else are you doing that Sunday or whatever day it is?
Yeah, that is the fun part. And it doesn't seem like it's worth getting like angry over. I mean, it is annoying. It's still annoying.
Even if the person who's like hosting bombs, it's fun that they're bombing. It's exciting. Somebody might get slapped.
Yeah, I think I transitioned slowly from caring about it the way they want you to care about it when I was a kid, and just thinking it was, I don't know, because I was never like a sports guy, so it was kind of like all the award shows, the Oscars, the Grammys, they're like the Super Bowl for, you can watch like Adam Levine and Adele get tackled instead of like, I can't name a sports guy, but so I cared about them that way. And then I think over time I kind of came to just be there for the spectacle of it. And then that's turned into kind of just like being there to groan at the spectacle of it. Because the show itself is kind of boring and a bummer to watch. Like, absent whatever is happening or who's winning or who's losing, the Oscars telecast itself is kind of a horrible slog.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean-
and they keep finding ways to make it worse under the guise of improving it somehow. Like, now we're going
Yeah.
to give awards to people in the categories we don't care about by walking to them at their seats so they don't even get to come up. And we're going to let the early speeches go on for fucking ever so that when somebody wins Best Picture or Best Director, that we start playing the music as soon as they get up there. Because we have to show you, like, a tribute to typewriters in film. Here's a montage of people, like, clackety-clacking on typewriters through the ages.
It is funny that it's kind of flipped, where it's actually us showing up and seeing it as this embarrassing spectacle, kind of, and it feels like even maybe the celebrities on the like who are there are like, it's like going to a family reunion that they don't really want to go to, but they have to because or like they got to go to church on Easter, got to do that, and we're all watching them do that and just kind of laughing at them, kind of like half the time. It's kind of like a punching up thing for us, I feel like, as a culture, in some ways, to see the people that are creating all of the media, creating a media spectacle that kind of doesn't wind up working half the time.
Yeah, and it's very self-serious. When people get up to accept the awards, like, they're definitely taking it very seriously.
Well,
and which,
same time, of course you would.
Yeah, which makes sense, but it adds to the silliness of the spectacle. And I had kind of a good time going back through looking at all the nominees and winners, like going back to the 20s, which that's part of what I guess is cool about the Oscars, is that there's a feeling of continuity, it going back like to like almost 100 years at this point. Or actually it'll be 100 years, I think in 2027. So get ready for that to be shoved down our throat.
That'll be brutal.
Right.
That's going to be agonizing. The first Oscars ever, I think they served a dinner and they handed out something like 15 awards in 15 minutes. Can you imagine?
And so it really, like, looking back through all of the winners, like, it does seem like they have always kind of been playing it safe. Maybe there was a little bit more of a tendency for like an actual all-time classic like Casablanca, or I'm just scrolling through it right now. It Happened One Night to win. But there's still a lot of things like 1944, Going My Way won. Like, oh, who doesn't love Going My Way, whatever the hell that is? And I could see myself like being just as cynical about these if I was alive, like in the 60s.
Sure.
Where it's like
2001: A Space Odyssey comes out, and I think it's like Oliver Twist won Best Picture or something like that.
That's the craziest year.
That's one of my favorite ones, yeah.
1968, if you looked at all the nominees and didn't know what movies came out that year, you would just think, oh, there was just really nothing happened that year. Like, Oliver won against Funny Girl, The Lion in Winter, Rochelle. Sounds like a Seinfeld imaginary movie.
Rochelle. It is literally, isn't Rochelle?
And Romeo
Rochelle?
and Juliet. Like, you wouldn't even know that fucking 2001: A Space Odyssey came out, and it was like the second highest grossing movie of the whole year. It wasn't like some little indie film.
No, it wasn't just a weird movie that we like now. No, it was huge. Yeah.
I think Rosemary's Baby was that year.
Yes.
And so even movies that you wouldn't, like, obviously aren't going to be part of the Oscars conversation at the time, like Night of the Living Dead came out in 1968. Still, it's telling that a movie like that clearly has lasted through the decades and been one of the most influential and, artistically and critically celebrated films like ever. And it's just not something that even gets mentioned as far as the Academy Awards go. So just as far as showing you that this is not really a barometer of anything except whatever the Academy, this oblique kind of incoherent, whatever the Academy is year to year thinks and how the votes turn out. It's all kind of random. The year that Kramer versus Kramer beat Apocalypse Now is also a good one.
Ooh, awesome. Everybody's favorite.
But then nowadays, it's like every couple years, it'll be like Moonlight wins or Anora just won last year. Movies that like your parents hadn't even seen or heard of. And then people get kind of pissed off that the Oscars are about, no one's seen these movies. No one's seen any of these movies.
Right. It's the same thing with the Grammys and all that. It's like the second that like anybody, even just a little like mainstream wins. Like I'll never forget when like Arcade Fire forever ago got a like best album of the year or whatever, and it was just like a firestorm of like, what is this strange jazz experimental music? What is this? Who has ever heard of this obscure thing? It's just like so funny.
You're right. The Grammys just like does that every once in a while, just out of nowhere.
And yeah, same with the Oscars. Like every once in a while, it actually gives in to something that like, oh well, maybe that's not the best movie of the year, but that would be like, it would be a fine answer looking back, like we're saying about it wouldn't be Oliver Twist, that year,
Yeah, and I do think they used to like objectively be a bigger deal because there didn't used to be such a huge divide between the movies that are, I don't know, like mainstream that everybody liked and the artistically interesting movies. Like you look through this list of the winners in the 70s and like that's pretty solid because that's a good decade for like the most popular movies being super fucking awesome, like Jaws and The Godfather, and like all in the same year coming out and being nominated or winning. Like the year One Flew Over a Cuckoo's Nest won. Like the other nominees were Barry Lyndon, Dog Day Afternoon, Jaws, and Nashville, which is mind-blowing. All those movies, by the way, I think are better than One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but that's still, I'll give it to them.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Oh my God, that's insane year. But I mean, the other elephant in the room is definitely just the downsizing, whatever word you want to use, of how like movies are de-emphasized in the culture now. And it's been like pretty consistent, gradual slope downward, especially to now, where I don't know. It goes. I go back and forth about it because it still seems like it's a big deal, and I still have like big conversations about some of these nominees and big movies that came out over the year. But it's obviously true that definitely compared to the 70s and 80s, like movie culture was like that was a central thing that everybody was talking about, and it's not necessarily the case today at all.
Yeah, I think it lasted up even through like the 90s where it still seemed like a big deal with what won Best Picture. But now, just the way I think the best thing the Oscars can do now is that it could bring attention to smaller movies like Anora or Moonlight or things like that. But then for some reason that pisses people off that they're not just awarding the movies that make the most money.
Right. Who has heard of that one? Why? Yeah.
So it all just seems not as consequential anymore. And the year of Crash, I don't know, maybe that would have been like on the tail end of when it seemed to matter more. And maybe that's why the backlash was partly why the backlash was so intense. But let's dive into it. This is our first, we're all back here together doing the episode. We've all been off for the last couple months,
traveling the world
in our own separate yet interconnected stories, being confronted with our own highly specific racial prejudices.
Exactly. And when we come together, it's just a shit show of slurs and just misunderstandings.
Yeah, and now we are intersecting again,
crashing into each other.
You really want me to drop that song?
As the David Matthews Band says. Brendan Fraser.
And for I believe like there's no other instance of this in Unwatchables history. We have now done 2 movies called Crash on this show.
This is the first time I think that's happened.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about earlier. What the fuck is wrong with this guy? Isn't he also Canadian? Haggis? I think he's Canadian. And he's like, well, there's no such movie. I can call this Crash.
It is funny that you always, whenever you're Googling either movie, there's going to be an issue.
Oh my God.
You're right. He's Canadian. I didn't, that part was lost on me.
He should have known better.
Yeah.
Maybe he was feuding with David.
This is definitely an auteur project. He's the writer-director of this film. And actually, just the year before this, the movie that he wrote, $1 Million Baby, won Best Picture. So he's like hot off of that success of that, like immediately got this movie made.
But in interviews, he talks about it like was this unemployed screenwriter, just like, oh, just everywhere I went to, and everybody said no. And it sounds like George Lucas trying to shop Star Wars around. Anything I was like looking at was just like, oh, but then you have to remember, like, you wrote $1 Million Baby. You're all right, buddy.
Yeah, that had to help. And he has some random credits. I guess he wrote Flags of Our Fathers for Clint Eastwood.
Co-creator of Texas Walker Ranger, however you say it.
That blew my mind.
He's okay.
That is definitely I don't know, not like a very auspicious start. So maybe it did seem like it was still an uphill battle, like to have success with $1 Million Baby and then get this made. I don't know.
But even if you wrote $1 Million Baby, you can still get held at gunpoint and get your car stolen, which is the genesis of this movie. Unlike most movies.
Yeah, I read that on the Wikipedia. That it says that he was inspired to make the film after being carjacked by 2 African-American men at a Blockbuster Video on Wilshire Boulevard while driving home from the premiere of The Silence of the Lambs in 1991. Afterwards, he began thinking more about the impact of race, ethnicity, and class in American society. He later stated that he wrote Crash not simply to criticize racists, but to bust liberals for the idea that the U.S. had become a post-racial society.
Whoa.
Audacious.
I think maybe the first issue here is that he had this incident where his car was stolen by 2 black guys, and somehow this was a racial issue. This was teaching him something about race relations, not anything else.
Right.
And is that really what's at the heart, like, of all of our societal discontent, is like, and our inability to relate to each other is like old-fashioned racial stereotypes that we believe about each other?
And is he missing the missing the part where he got his car stolen and he comfortably goes home that night and sits at his computer and gets to type and think about it, whereas like
he says that like they were walking away after they took the car and they made him stop, and they came up and they snatched the movie out of his hands, whatever French or Dutch film they rented,
this.
and he made some joke to the cops who responded like, well, I guess they wanted this Dutch movie, and every time they came to check it out, it was gone, and they saw me walking out with it and decided this was their chance or something. And
so he was really broken up about the whole incident.
But yeah, he says he went home and he was thinking about like this, you know, like their nights intersecting, and like, well, what happened next? And he's like, well, me and my wife went home and we changed our locks at 2 a.m. and what did those guys do? And he doesn't answer that in the interview, but I guess in his brain went, well, they must have gone off to be black guys somewhere. And then that's kind of as much thought as that's given in the movie, at least.
Yeah, I mean, that's directly, I guess, reflected by the Sandra Bullock and Brendan Fraser characters, where is he like a district attorney or something?
Yes.
And she's just his wife who's always angry about Mexicans and black people. And it's kind of weird that their storyline is very strange to me, that they're introduced as like seemingly important or major characters, but all that Sandra Bullock does is go in a couple tirades like for the whole movie.
Like immediately she gets home from this and she's just like, I can't believe it. I am allowed to be vocally racist now because I got my car stolen by 2 black men. It's she's like vindicated, and of course the second she gets home, there's like a Mexican guy changing the locks, and there's a black cop there, and just like every room she goes into, there's like another ethnicity for her to just like be totally horrified by, like it's repulsion or something.
Yeah, I guess like this movie just takes for granted. I mean, it creates this LA where like every single person has a very specific like race that they're angry at. It's almost quaint, some of the like prejudices that they all carry around. Like sometimes it's okay, I got a police officer who's targeting black people, but then there's also a lot of just Asians can't drive, or Latinos have cars parked in their front lawn.
Right, that one was like, what? It's like, where did you find that even?
Yeah, and Paul Haggis has this tendency to give maybe the nastiest like sort of stereotyping to the non-white characters. Like you can kind of tell when maybe something is just some weird thing that Paul Haggis thinks, but he like, was able to make Don Cheadle say it instead of him having to say it. And
That, of course, is here.
Yeah, it's because specifically what a lot of them rant about is, oh, I'm a white lady and I'm not allowed to be scared when we're walking down the street when two black guys are coming towards us. But then look what happened. They actually stole our car and drove away.
Which is,
And
yeah.
I guess the way this movie views that is like, hey, sometimes the stereotypes are true.
They're just stuck. Yeah, they all seem like trapped in this way that the movie traps them. Because like, yeah, they're all like intellectualizing. Like she's having that conversation, and then we cut to Ludacris and his friend who are about to do this act, and they are complaining about the fact that she gave him a weird look and like crossed the street and like maybe overanalyzing it. And then the other, like his other friend is like, oh, like all white people aren't like that. And then Ludacris is, they're like intellectualizing into circles and circles, and then they actually still go forth and do the thing. And they just like just saying that. What is it saying? That's the whole thing about this movie. Is it saying that we are trapped and hopeless, like as our races, to repeat our racial stereotyping? Because that's how it almost feels, even though it's like trying to say all these things and like intellectualize all these things.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about this movie is like every line anyone says, any action that they do is so like manipulated to be part of the overall message and theme. Like nothing seems to just happen organically in this film. It's all machine tooled for outrageous coincidences and thematically appropriate conversations. But what that message is strangely unexplored. Like I guess it's saying, okay, we all know that we're all at least a little racist. That person you were just racist to, they just went home and were racist to someone else. But look, we all just have a lot going on right now, okay? And that's just what it comes down to. Like, if we could all just zoom out and look at the beautiful racist tapestry that we're all weaving.
Like, isn't it great
then
that
maybe
we're
we could
racist?
understand each other.
Maybe it's a good thing or something. Like, I don't know. Like, because you could, I don't know. If we weren't out here doing this, what else would we be doing?
I think the real problem is that all he has up his sleeve is orchestrating these ridiculous like coincidences and like contriving these ludicrous the word, not the person in the movie, like
Nice.
encounters
Luda.
with each other. And it's hard to know what to make of them because sometimes it seems to be forcing them to confront their prejudices, but other times not.
Like, it's time to just swallow it and just, I guess I am a black man and I do these things or whatever. Like, I don't understand. Like,
what are we supposed to make of the Persian shop owner who
whoa, yeah.
gets into a feud with Michael Pena, the Mexican locksmith, and is going to his home to shoot him, as one does. And when he is going to shoot him, and Michael Pena's daughter runs out to get in front of the bullet, he doesn't realize that it's a blank in the gun.
That
And
was
so-
given to him because the other guy at the gun store was racist against him and wouldn't sell him bullets, so he gave him blanks.
Yes.
So
then he goes home, and I guess now he just believes in magic instead of racism. Makes you think, doesn't it?
see,
Does it? Does anything in this movie actually make you think? It made me think, what am I supposed to think?
like we referred a couple times talking to it right after we watched it, and like we've used the word a couple times here, like the message, but I actually don't know what the message is supposed to be.
so confused.
But the closest I can come up with is like, well, you know what? If that very first guy at the beginning of the movie who owned the gun shop hadn't been racist because of 9/11, then he would have just sold regular bullets to this Iranian guy who then
See?
would have murdered this little girl because he's an idiot and didn't understand that his lock needed like replaced or whatever. It makes, I don't know what you can like come away from this like overwhelmed by the thought of or like empowered by. It makes no sense to me.
yeah, if I stretch my brain, it's like some kind of like very zoomed out, as Mark said, like new age sort of perspective of just like everything is in its right place. Actually, you're wrong. Like we are not. None of this is incorrect. I guess is that what he's trying to say? That like this is all set up to be how it is, and like this is just how we are. And there's like a perfect. You're supposed to see this perfect symmetry to it, which is a real weird thing to take away from this picture you're looking down upon, which is just a bunch of people fighting and kind of hating each other. Even right up until the end, there's a lot of unresolved, like not all of these resolve nicely, which I think is like one of the good things about the movie. Like something I could say in its favor, that certain ones don't tie up perfectly, where other ones absolutely do. That this is an ongoing conversation, I think, is probably the best place you can end with this sort of thing. Because yeah, it's like it is hubris for this guy who got carjacked to come home and think that he's going to somehow like solve all this or come up with something like really all that powerful for us to nibble on and feel better about the whole situation. I don't know. Yeah.
And I can almost appreciate his instinct to, as he put it, bust liberals as opposed to the racists.
Right.
Which is always more fertile ground, I think, when you're doing a movie like this. And maybe there's something to be said for all of the like frank discussion of like the white lady saying that she's so frustrated that she has this instinct that ended up actually being the right one, even though she shouldn't have had it. And kind of like maybe there is an instinct to try and make the assumed audience for this uncomfortable by putting these things out in the forefront.
Yes.
And maybe it is saying that, people, we haven't totally overcome and established racial harmony at this point, that there are people who still think and talk like this, even like successful or liberal people. But the way it handles that, it risks validating them, because so much of this movie just seems to come down to, well, everyone has their reasons, okay?
Yeah, not going anywhere, is it?
Sometimes the black guys are the carjackers, and sometimes they're the ones who rescue and free a van full of Thai immigrants who, by the way,
Mark,
were the ones who are in a van that was driven by the Chinese guy who they ran over and were being racist against. But it turns out he was actually driving a van full of immigrants that were chained together.
And
So
Ludacris takes them to Chinatown. How racist of Ludacris.
It's just, yeah, it's all so like all over the place. And I think another productive way to look at this movie, though, is outside of all that stuff, is that this is like very much of a genre of the everything is connected, like ensemble drama.
Yeah, Robert Altman-esque, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard this referred to as hyperlink cinema. Somebody like coined that term, and I think Ebert picked up on it when he was reviewing Syriana, where it's a very specific thing, right? There's a bunch of like disparate characters that you follow throughout the movie, and there's no main character. And then they intersect in unexpected ways, which, like you said, we'll go back to like Nashville or Shortcuts. But there's a lot more than that. Like Pulp Fiction, I guess, kind of counts as that.
Yeah.
But there's a very
creates an
specific
ecosystem
where like interconnectedness is the theme of the movie. And I guess
Magnolia.
It's all going back to Magnolia, right?
Yeah, this is racist Magnolia. Where it snows in LA instead of rains frogs on them. Which is also like a common denominator of all of these like coming together ensemble movies. It seems like that's just like they can't avoid the like, what's the thing that brings us together? The weather. It's just like, what do we talk about with strangers? The weather. And then at the end it always like rains or snows or something like that happens.
Yeah, and what's interesting about Magnolia, though, is even though this seems to be the template it's playing on, and that movie all the way throughout, like the narrator is talking about wild coincidences happening, like in a self-conscious way. But that doesn't really happen in the movie. Like the way that they interconnect are just how they happen to be related. It's not full of outrageous coincidences. It's just setting us up for the frog falling part, I think.
Yes. That's That's one of the things about Magnolia that I think frustrates some people about just like it's stating what it's about so often throughout the movie, and it's already pretty obvious what it's about. That just like everything's connected, and that's kind of what some people walk away with. I don't know, like, and I guess you could say the same about Crash, and that it's just like everything's connected, and you know what the connection is? Racism. We're all connected through racism all the time. And then the movie's over, kind of.
Yeah, and there's actually I also thought of the
I like
movies
Magnolia.
that,
I don't know.
that Alejandro Inarritu was making at this time. He made like 3 in a row.
Oh, Babel?
Babel.
Yeah, I was just about to ask if that came out before or after Crash. I don't know what year that was.
You know, I'm not sure because he made
wow.
Amores Perros, 21 Grams, and Babel, and all 3 of them are like that. In increasingly like convoluted, like kind of crazy ways. But Crash is like the final boss of those movies. It's like the absolute like peak or nadir of like what is a bad idea about those movies, like what's just glib and showy. And I think it's telling. The quote that I was using for the intro here was something that he said during his speech when he won for best screenplay for this, where he quotes Brecht saying that art is not a mirror of the world or of reality, but a hammer with which to shape it. And that's kind of his approach here, right? Hammer?
Yeah.
Maybe like bulldozer.
Which I think could be said as to being like the good part about this on some level is what you've explained, which is voicing what is often inside the like microaggression and silent racism, which usually is the case. I mean, like more often than not, what you're experiencing through the world is like observances of that, where it's like I don't know how to take that little bit or whatever. Like here in Crash World, it's like everything that would like be in the person's mind in those microaggressions is like vomiting out as loud as possible. That flips for me as being like my mom could maybe watch this and take it as like, well, I don't do that. Or like an audience member could watch this and be like, well, I mean, like maybe I have a little bit of these things inside me, but I would never act on them like that guy does, or like Matt Dillon like assaulting someone because he thinks, you know, he can do that to another race because he's like superior or something. Like that's pretty intense, like dividing like plausible deniability for an audience member to walk away with sometimes. And therefore vindicating.
Yeah, the way that whole thread unfolds is kind of typical of like his approach to this movie, and where I'm not sure. Like, so we've kind of narrowed down like what his thesis is here. But if you look at probably the most well-known storyline from this, which is the Matt Dillon one, which I guess basically is, you know how sometimes your father's company goes out of business because all the minority-owned companies get preferential treatment from the government, and so therefore you like racially target and sexually assault a black woman in front of her husband, but then the next day you drag someone out of a exploding car at the last minute, and it's that same lady. Whoa, like Keanu. Whoa. But really? What? What are we supposed to take away from that? That one day your rapist may be the one who saves your life. Like, okay, maybe it will be, but
that's not necessarily a case for being good to each other.
The juxtaposition of those scenes, too, is, I think, really problematic. That we have this really disturbing scene of him feeling her up and like basically raping her in front of her husband. And then it's juxtaposed with this scene of him like tenderly and lovingly, like intimately, like cutting her out from the seatbelt and pulling her dress down and lovingly like taking her out of the car right before it explodes, all while the choral arias are you know, singing in the background. And
there's also her like understandably being traumatized, and like even the like idea of him trying to reach for her is like making her horrified, so that he has to like lure her, convince her, you could almost say seduce her into letting him save her.
And it almost seems like it's a super obvious lesson for him, but it's like she's supposed to be learning something from this too.
Right.
And what the fuck is up with that?
It's really fucked up.
No idea what she's learning. Yeah. What?
The other cop who's there at the scene when they pull her over with her husband and assault her, he is off saving her husband's life in a separate. It's
independent of each other. They are running into the same people.
Yeah, it's so and it's like this would be unbelievable if the movie were set in like a small town of like 10,000 people. This could not happen. And this is supposed to happen in LA within like a couple days or something.
And even if you allow for that, it's still just like, okay, so the next day maybe those cops will help you out. I don't know, okay, we get it. Some people sometimes aren't bad like every time or all the time. But the way it handles Ryan Phillippe's character, the other cop, is another thing that seems super glib. Like he's what, the one person in this movie who's like trying to do the right thing, like against, like resist his racist partner, help this Terrence Howard's character who is kind of having a breakdown and is going to be led to being shot by the cops, and he diffuses the whole thing.
Them.
Well, of course, in the last scene, his last scene, he suddenly becomes this kind of like paranoid asshole who picks up a black guy, another one of the characters, miraculously intersecting, and then ends up shooting him. Like, don't you see? Any one of us could shoot an unarmed black man, no matter how good you are. And proving Matt Dillon right when he earlier in the film says, you don't even know who you are. Like, you just go out and do this job for a little bit longer and you'll find out. And then he turns out to be right.
A little bit longer.
And in just this scene that's like just completely like shoved into the movie, that there's been absolutely no like building towards this moment with that character or anything. All of the characters in this movie are like, they're like established as well as like a character in like an improv sketch would be. And then they like are immediately after that shown to be doing something like against that character's like it makes no sense that the rookie cop who is so like concerned with what's right and just here, that he like even tries to stop his partner from assaulting the woman that they pull over in the car, and then he wants to be reassigned to a new partner, and they won't let him do it unless he cites like some kind of excuse. So they tell him,
he
like
gets a lecture from the black captain played by Keith David.
Yes,
basically for you think that, that, I don't know, kind of punishing him for not recognizing how, of course, this is a racist system, and I had to sweep this under the rug to get where I am. You don't know what you're talking about,
right? And so they tell him like, okay, well, you've got to like write a letter saying that you're too gassy to share a car with another officer, and you've got to be on your own.
That was a good joke.
And it's
comedy.
Like and he does it. Like he gets reassigned and he's in his own car, and there's like a scene where they're making fun of him over the radio for being farty or whatever. So it's like he's willing to even endure this humiliation to like get away from the racist cop. And then he stops and pulls over this guy who he has no real like friction or confrontation with, and just gets like a little nervous about him being like weird, and tells him to get out of the car, and then just shoots him right there because he like reaches into his pocket or so. It's just like, what was the point of any of this guy's involvement in this? And it's, I know it's all to like, all these people are there to like set up the hyperlink thing, but I don't know, like there's nothing, even if you just stripped out all the racial stuff and all the like whatever the message is supposed to be, there's nothing exciting about the way all the fireworks go off at the end with like the interconnected plot thing. It's not like, like Burn After Reading or something would be like my favorite movie that does something like that. That's like, I mean, that one's obviously like way different tonally, but like it's just all like, oh, okay, I guess he's just gonna shoot the guy. And then that, of course, he happens to be Don Cheadle's brother that I guess he's also looking for.
Because it's got to be, because it's a small town.
Yeah.
Los Angeles is a very small town. Yeah, that whole, I mean, that's something that I kind of spoke to, and yeah, some of these are like left a little bit more ambiguous. That one is, it's like doing what I would want this to do, which is to like obviously not repair all the relationships and just be like, we can just get over these things in the span of 2 hours. But that just leaves it in such a sad, dark, extreme place, which I think at the end, like even at its most optimistic, it seems to have a pretty like a kind of dark sensibility about a lot of this inevitability, just like an inescapable idea about a lot of this stuff. Like maybe the most like truly optimistic situation is Sandra Bullock like having like this weird, but it's still like so funny, like her big moment as like people are getting shot and burned and fucking like all these horrible things are happening. A child almost dies. I feel like that's like right after the kid almost dies and gets shot.
Yeah.
We cut to Sandra Bullock falling down the stairs.
She just falls down the
She
stairs.
just falls
at
down the
home 'cause
stairs in her
she's a dumb
mansion.
bitch.
Yeah, her socks are too slippery.
And then for some reason, like that, like, you know, shakes her out of it and
She
being
gets
like,
a short scene afterwards. She's
My-
like, "Oh, the maid drove
the
me.
maid
Now
was really
I know
nice
that
to me.
Mexicans are good."
even though she's Mexican and my white friends didn't help me. And once again, yeah, it's like,
She's also like maybe the most like viciously racist person in the movie.
yes.
Like, I mean,
Well, not
just-
more than Matt Dillon.
Well, sure, but like, I mean, in terms of just like her actual involvement with any of these people, and then her reaction to everything, it's just like her reaction to the carjacking, just being like, "See, I knew I should have been scared of those black guys all along," and then like saying like the Mexican locksmith was gonna come back later with his homies and rob the place, and like, and we don't need her for any of this ever again after the carjacking scene. And then she just like her maid helps her because she fell, and like now she's cured of this racism.
It would be so
or
funny
something.
if
Right.
like she was the main character and that's really all that happened in this movie.
Yeah.
It's just like her being pissed for a long time until she falls down the stairs. And that's all that there is to her story.
She probably got a stunt lady to do it anyway.
But it's just so like schematic and hacky is when it comes down to it. These are ideas that, like, when I saw this movie when I must have been, I don't know, 14 or 15 or something, when I haven't seen this since the year it came out, like shortly before it won the Oscar. And like I thought it was pretty good. At that time, I might have even owned it actually. Although I know I only watched it the once. But it is an idea of like what a teenager or a child would think is like cool or profound. Like, whoa.
Yes.
Look how we really like, even the good cop character is not above it all. But dramatically, it's just like stupid.
It's really talking down. I got like the best I can say, and I mean, I don't like despise this movie. And I'm trying to like stretch myself a little bit to, I don't like some of it the way it works in movie land, because like I get that I don't think Paul Haggis. I mean, I'm being again like maybe given the benefit of the doubt that Paul Haggis is probably understanding that this is in short story world. This is movie world where coincidences happen, and like an audience can ideally, like an educated audience can see that this is how things happen in movies, but we're orchestrating things in an artificial way to articulate something real in the world.
He's described this as fables.
Yeah, they definitely feel that way. They feel like Bible stories. They feel like stuff like that. Like the whole setup with the blanks and the child, and the child even thinking she has like an invisible cape that like protects her or something, is all like magical realism. It feels like these like magical realist kind of ideas going on here that I almost like, I can't help but it's hard not to respond to, like a scene like that where like the child, you think that she's shot the child and she's not dead, and like you have a little bit of that. It's just hard not to feel a little like, as much as those are effective, it's just here it feels like it's being used to talk down to me as like an adult who can take it and doesn't need things to maybe be like blown up to such a wild, like hyperbolic level.
That's drove me crazy about that in particular, is that earlier on in the movie we have this kind of sweet, kind of maudlin but sweet scene between Michael Pena and his daughter.
I really
She's
like that
scared
scene. I think
about-
it's so sweet.
Yeah, she's scared because a bullet went through her room once, and so he gives her this whole story about how when he was little, this fairy came and gave him like a magic bulletproof vest or something, and that he's giving it to her now. But it can't just be like this nice bonding character moment. It turns out it's all a setup so that she runs in front of him to block him from a bullet, thinking that she has a magic bulletproof vest on. Like
so
can't
that
just
she
be
can
a
teach
nice
everyone
scene.
about like how racism was bad in that situation.
Yeah, like once it clicks that, oh, that's why we sat through all of this. It was to get to this end game, not as like a neat little character moment.
And it's one of the more baffling exchanges that any of the characters have with each other too, because like it just makes no sense for the shop owner to go shoot this guy over like the.
And what does he learn from this?
He
I
learns magic.
It's magic instead of racism. I don't know. Maybe it's like call them all fables, whatever you want. Even though a lot of them, are really trying to be like gritty and stuff.
Oh, it
like
really
with the
rides
cops
the
and
line. Yeah, when
everything.
I talk about all that, it does. That's kind of the flaw of it, is that it's not taking place in a magic realism world. It's doing that for 5 minutes at a time and then going back to like, this is boots on the ground, like how reality works right now in 2004,
And when you intercut all of them, so it just seems like this is how every person's life is in the whole city. Like it's too much.
That's the major thing.
And yeah, like Haggis talks about like the idea of being like, yeah, someone cuts you off in traffic and you honk at them and shout, and then what happens? You go left and they go right, and then that's the last of it. But as if that's like all the movie's about or something, and it just like no one has a single interaction in this movie that isn't about some racial issue. Like even Matt Dillon going to try to like have some like administrative appointment to talk about his dad's like health care to get something covered. He makes it about this black woman who's like the secretary at the HMO office or whatever.
Right. Of
Like,
course, your name is Shaniqua.
Yeah, like, oh, I bet you got this job like as a, like he implies like that she was like an affirmative action hire or something. It's just like every single conversation in the movie that anybody has is like that.
And then the film ends with Shaniqua getting into a fender bender with somebody else and
Yes.
starting to hurl racial epithets at
See,
them.
Shaniqua's
Yes.
not so good.
All the magic snow that unites us all falls from the sky.
And it's like a here we go again ending, which is pretty silly feeling to walk away from this movie with.
I do love how this might have like some kind of record for movies that explain the thematic significance of their title in dialogue before the opening credits are even over. Like the first thing in this movie is Don Cheadle saying, "In LA, nobody touches you. I think we miss that touch so much that we crash into each other just so we can feel something."
Oh,
And like
it's
I relate to that.
I know, like fiction writing
Sometimes
class.
I yell slurs at a Puerto Rican just to feel alive.
Yeah, because I don't have anything else going on in my life. That's all I have.
And of course, he's saying this following an actual traffic crash. So we're not going to miss like the point.
Is that
Of
the
what's
message that there
happening.
are just too many cars in LA? Is that what we're
I think so.
Yeah, I don't know. Is that true, Tony? You've been to LA more than any of us. Is it true nobody touches you there?
I've not been touched there yet.
You've never
I
been
have
touched
yet
in
to
LA.
be touched in LA. Maybe some of our listeners can talk about their experiences getting touched in LA.
Yeah,
But-
I'm going there next month. I'm gonna go to Chinatown and I'm gonna see if I can find.
So
Talk about ludicrous freeing them, but I mean, I wonder what my real notes are for this movie, though. Like, what is something constructive I can say about this? As far as it, because the flip side is like its subtext being like just so blatant,
It's
it's
just
not
text.
subtext, it's just text. That's like the problem with this movie. Flip side is I feel like there's plenty of these movies that go too far the other way, where they're like wink wink nudge nudge, like an A24 horror movie where it's like it's about drama, whisper, it's not just a monster. I don't like that either. I don't know. I think my main problem is like issue movies. Like I just don't think like you setting out with a prompt and issue to solve is not necessarily the way to find a story or the way to even find an answer. Like so often in writing, people talk about like that you don't actually know what you're looking for or what the question is that you're even going to answer by the end of it. And I think that's probably the real thing I could say about this is like setting out with like the objective so clear and the like your themes being so clear and that leading every single choice that the movie does.
Yeah, I mean, the opposite of that is like kind of what excites me about art and movies
Yes.
is that ambiguity, and there's none of that here. But I do think that maybe a bigger problem is even beyond whatever you make of the message is just how it goes about that. Like, this is just some hokey fucking shit. And even if that stuff maybe wasn't so foregrounded and you just kind of somehow kept the plot stuff, it's like too like clever, trying to be clever for its own good.
Yeah, and I think it can't really be redeemed because if you did just zero out the racial stuff by, let's say you made everybody in the movie the same race, pick your favorite one.
Polish.
Then there's nothing for any of them to do. He's now like that's all he has to like to figure out who any of these characters are, is like they're just defined by whatever like ethnicity they are and how that causes friction against the other ones. And then, in the process of doing that, it also kind of feels like it gives like he thinks he's like pointing a finger at white liberals or something, but it kind of feels like it gives them a pass for like, hey, we all do this stuff, man.
It equates all the different kinds.
Yep,
as being the same thing.
All the racisms are created equally. Yeah.
Being the same thing, that there's no, like what you said at the beginning, that there is like no possibility that this has to do with economics or class or like any sort of like hierarchy like that, or lesser evils or versus greater evils, which I do think like this ignores. That like a white cop with power is like it's like not the same thing as having like a little stereotype about your Mexican locksmith as a black person or something, or whatever, like the Persian guy having prejudice against the locksmith or whatever.
Yeah, I think if you want to make a movie like this, this is going to be like the Bechdel test, but for race. We'll call it the Haggis test. You have to have two white characters who talk to each other about something other than their Mexican locksmith.
This is good.
This fails that.
Talk about one thing that doesn't have to do with like a slur or hating another ethnicity or how they have been wronged against.
Also, the license that Haggis gives himself to just say things that you're like, whoa, what? like there will be these lines that almost feel like they would be in like a comedy that would have come out at the same time. Like he'll just have, like he'll have somebody look at the black cop and just be like, man, fucking black people, am I right? I don't know. There's just lines in this that feel like this guy really could have like. He wanted to make like a Rush Hour movie or something, and he did this instead.
Right, like he has fun with a lot of the like insults and stuff. It's just like like almost like making it like, oh, isn't it cute and creative how creative we get with racism? Whatever Don Cheadle says about like Puerto Ricans.
I just looked
parking their car on them.
Find exactly
like,
what
how
it
did
was.
you even find that? What is even talked about?
His girlfriend
there?
was trying to like explain to him the difference between like Mexicans and Puerto Ricans, and he says, "Well, who gathered all those remarkably different cultures together and taught them all how to park their cars on their lawns?"
I can't imagine being that eloquently racist.
That came from deep inside of Paul Haggis for sure.
Holy shit.
And just having the Terrence Howard, he's like the more privileged, like rich kind of like famous black guy telling the carjacker black guy, Ludacris, that you are an embarrassment. Like, scolding, one black guy scolding another for being a representation of his race. And it's just that extra level of just knowing, like, who wrote that and all these different monologues.
Right.
A little weird.
Yeah, and like the first introduction to the carjackers, like they're just walking down this kind of like upscale looking white business district, and they're talking all like theorizing about race and sociology in America, and he's like, we're the only two black guys walking down the street full of overcaffeinated white people and patrolled by the trigger happy LAPD, and like we're the ones that are supposed to be scary, like we should be the ones that are scared. And then one of them's like, well, hey, that's why we got guns. And then they just like reach into their waistbands and pull out guns and then go carjack this guy, like right out of, like some of them almost play like that was supposed to be like a gotcha.
Gotcha though.
Yeah.
Again, which would be funny if like Dave Chappelle made that joke, but
Right,
it's
right.
the guy who wrote $1 Million Baby.
It's this Canadian
from Canada.
screenwriter, yeah.
So that year, the other nominees were Capote, Good Night and Good Luck, the George Clooney directed movie about Edward R. Murrow, Munich from Spielberg, and Brokeback Mountain, which people were expecting to win. I think all of those. Actually, I'm not sure I've seen Capote, but
Oh, really?
yeah, I don't think I
Oh.
have.
I love Capote.
Okay, I'll take it for granted that one, in addition to all the others, are way better movies than this.
Yeah.
Certainly Brokeback Mountain is. I mean, that's
Oh my
a
God, it's
fucking
wonderful.
beautiful movie.
And also like homophobic of Crash for not having any homophobia in it.
I would like the sexuality based version of this movie, right? Where it was all like straights complaining about gays,
Oh,
and
these
gays
fucking they
complaining
thems.
about
Oh.
bisexuals and asexuals crashing into polyamorous people. And why don't you go fuck yourself? Ah.
How many pansexuals does it take to screw in a light bulb?
But there was I guess there were like some Academy members who I don't know, it was said like they had shared that just the Crash seemed like the safer pick because they still were uncomfortable like with the gay stuff in Brokeback Mountain, which may or may not have been true, but it does seem like it's just some reason that they ended up going with this one.
Yeah, I guess like at the time, I read a bunch of stuff, like just contemporary writing about this movie, and it really does. There was nothing controversial about this movie at all.
This was well
the time.
reviewed.
Yeah,
at the
Ebert
time.
Ebert gave it 4 stars.
It was
and-
Ebert's #1 film of the year.
Yeah, and his review was kind of bonkers.
Let me read his quote because I have it pulled
Yeah, go
up.
for
He
it.
said, "Not many films have the possibility of making their audiences better people. I don't expect Crash to work any miracles, but I believe anyone seeing it is likely to be moved to have a little more sympathy for people not like themselves."
Ooh.
Which is a very generous,
Yeah.
I think that's what it's trying to do.
Well, that's the thing I worry about in a podcast like this is that we are. I mean, I think there were detractors, obviously, people calling bullshit on a movie like this back then, but
There were.
I also don't want to like apologize necessarily for the time either. That like, but I do think there's shifts. It was like a while back. I think it's hard for us to kind of put that into perspective as people in 2026 necessarily who have been through some like major political shifts and racial shifts and movements just in our lifetime. And again, it's not necessarily apologizing for people for having bad optics and not thinking a little harder about a movie and how it like is manipulative, which I can understand. This is like a machine for manipulation and manipulating an audience into feeling things. Like it's pretty like I don't know. Like if I fast forward, like rewound back to then, I couldn't really like fault some of like an everyday moviegoer seeing this and like yeah, they probably cried. They probably like this is like a very intense like 2 hours.
It is a big swing. It's operatic.
And it announces itself that like, well, I should feel like this is a movie that's important. I don't know.
Yeah, the best case I could
It's
make
going to change the world.
for why somebody should watch this is that if you're like me and you feel like 2004 wasn't that long ago, like you go watch this movie and think about how people watched this at the time and went, yes, that's right.
Yes, count every single year that separates you from then to now.
It's like it's a different planet in 2004.
And shit moves faster and faster. I mean, I do think that's a real thing for better and worse.
Not that like truly, incendiary movies hadn't been, made plenty of years before that, but as far as the Oscars catching up with it, that's where like we'll talk when we get to Green Book about, Driving Miss Daisy winning the year Do the Right Thing came out and wasn't nominated.
Woo.
And so that stuff had been going on for, over a decade at that point.
Yeah. Well, this is also star-studded too, in a way that is just like, oh, well, they're all showing up. This is a big deal.
Yeah, in a way, it is like more palatable in that way, since there is, no ambiguity to it, even if there is something like trying to be confrontational. I don't know. It's interesting, and especially that, and we'll find this with Green Book too. Like after this, Paul Haggis made like a couple other movies The only one I'd heard of was called In the Valley of Elah or Elah with Tommy Lee Jones. I never saw it, but
Oh, yeah, I
that
remember
coming out.
I remember that
and
movie.
Having like reasonably good reception. And then it's just stuff with I've never heard of. The Next 3 Days with Russell Crowe and Third Person, which sounds like another ensemble intersecting stories movie with Liam Neeson. And he made a documentary about like an AIDS ward in 2018, and that's the last like credit that he has for directing. And,
Well, he
like this didn't launch him, into something into more after this.
well,
really.
well, Paul Haggis was launched pretty hard, but he was launched by another social phenomenon of that would have been inconceivable to him in 2004, which was the Me Too movement.
He got canceled hard.
Did he?
About as hard as you can be. Yeah. So
I totally missed that.
Yeah.
he first had to address a single rape accusation, which he vehemently denied, and then claimed that he was like going bankrupt trying like mounting a legal defense, and ended up settling for like $2 million, which a lot of people kind of saw as an admission of guilt. This was like 2017 or so, like around then.
Yes.
And then in the midst of all of that, like numerous other people came forward with like accusations against him. And
Well, he like goes to Italy and gets arrested in Italy for for assaulting someone.
yeah,
Which he gets acquitted for and everything, but like that's during him going through this long legal battle for assault in the first place, which is not helpful. Of course, before that, he's quoted as saying like, because he was also a Scientologist, like talk about magic realism perspectives in this movie, like maybe where some of them come from being a Scientologist, but he left the church and he was a part of like the whole Going Clear documentary and stuff like that, is like very vehemently against the church and stuff. And then he's like quoted about like, don't be surprised if there's a scandal in the future, which is really just probably like a
Easy,
guilty
yeah.
conscience talking, trying to nip it in the
Whoa.
bud.
Have I
But
been too easy on this guy?
there's so there's like a whole thing where he's like, the Scientologists are trying to get at me and whatnot. Also,
Did you know there was a Crash TV show spinoff?
What?
Ran for 2 seasons on Stars.
Was it just stuff like this? Like,
Can you
happening over and
imagine
over?
a
endless
whole
racial
season?
coincidences.
How did I miss that? I would have watched so much of
That's
that if I.
insane.
Oh my god!
The first season had Dennis Hopper in it, and
You want to get a guy to say the N-word? I'll tell you what, he will.
We should do a bonus episode where we watch that whole thing. I bet that's a blast.
Whoa.
Hold on. Did we say if we would unwatch? Did we do an unwatch on Crash? We didn't do that.
oh no, we didn't.
Do we need to do that? It's kind of in the title of the show.
Yeah, well, okay.
I can patch these things together.
I like
With
the
Marc's
organic
transition.
nature of what we're doing right now.
Okay, so are you unwatching it or what?
No, it was fun. I had a good time watching it with you guys.
Oh. Well, that was worth screeching our transition to a halt.
Sure
Thank
was.
you.
We were doing a good job.
have to say if you don't watch it.
No, I couldn't. It's too much of a like flamboyantly terrible movie experience. It's not the kind of thing that something like that I have a hard time on watching.
Yeah, I mean, it's like undeniably well made, quote unquote. So it's like not that it's like totally unpalatable or something. I wouldn't unwatch it. It at least as like it's helpful as a cautionary tale to anyone who would approach such themes to like watch this and learn. Kind of, it's good that it's out there for that. I still think there should have been a Moby song. I still think this is
That's
just
right.
like
You mentioned that.
such a
in the movie.
Moby movie.
There was like an Amy Mann sound-alike song.
Yeah, it's like a piano
Just
going. There's like, yeah,
To stop
bum, bum, bum,
till
bum.
you wise up.
Yeah, I
No,
know.
that's the
They
real
did
one.
have like a wise up moment.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I want to see Don Cheadle sing, but they didn't let him.
Ooh, Crash the Musical. I'd watch that.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's already a TV show. Why not a musical? Hey, friends, just a reminder that Unwatchables is brought to you by you. You can support us directly at patreon.com/unwatchables for as little as $1 a month, or get access to all of our bonus episodes. You can now also join our Discord server, talk with us about each episode, upcoming events, suggestions, and whatever else that you want to yell at me and Seth about. See you there.
So you were saying?
I don't know what the fuck I was saying. You figure out what I was saying.
Well, we were talking about we were doing the
Racism is
transition.
solved.
We solved. Yeah. Yes.
Racism is solved.
Moonlight has won Best Picture. Paul Haggis defeated racism.
Green Book arrives
And
just
now-
on time.
Obama has been the president.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now Peter Farrelly of the Farrelly brothers is taking his own stab at a similar topic.
It's called Dumb and Dumber 2.
Yeah. And this is, I mean, in case anyone wasn't aware, this is Peter Farrelly of, Dumb and Dumber, There's Something About Mary, Shallow Hal, Stuck on You, Me, Myself, and Irene. The list goes on. And this was his first time breaking free of the duo to solo direct a drama, which I honestly have no idea, exactly how he became involved in this, except that he was just like a Hollywood guy, with some pull. And so that's kind of an unlikely entry point to this, except this one is based on a true story-ish. True, except that some people have contested the characterization of the people, and
as true as an unrecorded road trip across America can be, with two people there to see it all.
Yeah, and so basically, I don't know, watching this movie after Crash, I think only does this movie favors.
Yes.
It was kind of like watching Green Inferno after Cannibal Holocaust.
Exactly.
And movies with
Green Book, Green Inferno.
similarly delicate racial politics.
Similar titles.
And because this falls into a whole bunch of more predictable boxes than Crash does, I guess, right? It's a period piece. It's like a road movie. It's a odd couple, buddy film. It's basically planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yeah. And they're just a sprinkling of, race that is also the main course at the same time somehow. But it tries to play it off like it's not in some ways. It's the opposite of Crash in that way. And I think a fascinating way, and a way that probably, I don't know, at least courts with accidentally exposing how a lot of folks view racism now, which is that it's less and less a problem or something, or at least during this time when this came out, which would have been, right before Black Lives Matter and things really took hold in the mainstream culture and 2020 and all that stuff and Trump and oh my God. Trump
yeah, well,
too.
This is a few years into the Trump presidency, so we have that. And there's been so many incidences now, but what was the big incident where, was it the person driving a car into a protest? What the fuck am I thinking of? It's depicted at the end of Black Klansman, they show video from it, where Trump said that there's fine people on both sides.
Charlottesville.
Okay. So it's so quaint, given all of that context here. And you can kind of talk about this movie in the ways that it really falls into the white savior tropes and does the characters dirty and stuff like that. But on the other hand, this is almost more like a slobs versus snobs, a fun-loving good old boy teaching the effete, uptight, pampered square to loosen up.
Right.
And I think that's why people probably appreciated this movie more on that level in a mainstream way when it came out. And that there's it's this mismatched pair having a fun time together.
Yeah, because what we're dealing with, the two real life characters were one was a black jazz pianist, classically trained pianist, everything white people in America back then would never expect. And he plays at the White House and he is well dressed and well spoken, quote unquote. And like has money, it seems, and is very, very cultured in a way. And then we have in a way, like in the context of the time, quote unquote, white Viggo Mortensen, who is Italian, which is not necessarily white back then, but he is the...
Oh, in this movie he is.
Yes. He's the schlubby guy. He is lower class. He is just the regular, like, doesn't speak well, non-poetic, kind of a man's man. And in a way that's like some of this almost touches on like what we talked about with Crash, which is like ignoring the fact that there is like class and economic factors that are actually like quite often at the root of certain things that are also playing into these things that are like tearing us apart and making us horrible to each other. And there's some of that here, which is the fact that, yeah, like I'm so bad at knowing anyone's name in any
Tony
movie
Lip
ever.
is the Italian guy.
Tony, of course,
So
his name
Tony-
is
Tony Lip.
Tony
And
Lip.
then we have Don Shirley.
Don Shirley, the piano player, is kind of a prick. Like, and I don't think it's necessarily. I think we're led to, and it's fine to think so because he is kind of a prick.
That
Like, he's
aspect
like,
is fine, I think.
yeah, he's like correcting grammar constantly in a way. And of course, it points towards it also being a trap for him that he's like kind of fallen into, that he has to be a certain way and act a certain way, or else society won't accept him. That is like a great takeaway from a lot of this. It's,
Also, this movie's racist against Italians, right?
yes,
Very difficult thing to achieve.
we need more of that.
Yeah. In 2018, but this movie does it, I think.
Viggo Mortensen is in full Italian face in this.
Yes.
There's a scene where he's sitting in bed with his gut out and pulls a whole cheese pizza out, folds it, and takes a big old bite out of it.
Folds the pizza, which Tony and I know this is a real filthy thing that Italians do and should not be depicted.
I know. I'm the only white guy on the podcast, so I mean, I can speak from.
Yeah, Seth
you
is
know.
the resident wasp here, I guess.
I can
but
speak about how strange that is. To
Tony
me
and
that
I
you guys do that.
Come from big Italian families. Tony probably more so. So it's everything that we say about Italians from this point on in the episode is fine because we're in the in group. Seth is gonna have to fucking watch it though.
yeah,
Watch
you,
your mouth.
You don't have a pass to use the word.
Meatball. I said it.
But Viggo Mortensen, does seem like strange casting to me. I mean, he put on 45 pounds and he looks kind of strange. And it's the way this character is written, it's just so hard for it not to be this caricature. He really reminded me of the Penguin in the new Batman movie.
See, I like him. I think he's kind of delightful in this. Maybe.
I think he does a good job.
Yeah.
I think
But
both of the leads.
They both do great.
He's fighting though against how ridiculous this character is.
And he's doing like the voice, like if you have a friend who does kind of like a bad Tony Soprano or something like that
Yes.
you might do, and again I just think it's the stuff they're making him say. But yeah, it is kind of weird that like they couldn't just get somebody from that world to like they told him he was playing this Italian guy and he immediately was like, all right, well, I need some time to get fat and stupid.
I gotta be a fat fuck if no one's gonna buy
Mac,
this.
who can barely write or whatever.
He spent
Yeah.
months ahead of this role just like stuffing his head in the microwave on high to lower his IQ.
Who is like, he's such a handsome Renaissance man who writes poetry and goes fly fishing in his spare time. And here he is.
Yeah, and I mean
love it.
his character is like he's an idiot, right? He's like a
Yeah,
dumb
that's
guy.
generous.
Well,
he can barely write.
I guess.
Everything he says is it's like funny because it's dumb, even though he has that endearing wisdom.
Yeah, he's
to him.
immediately endearing to me. Like, as just like a salt of the earth, regular ass guy, especially when compared to like, you know, the hoity toity, like correcting his grammar.
Yeah, you can't miss the contrast. It's just like his letters home are so like they're supposed to be funny, obviously, but
Oh, they're adorable.
dear wife, we
Yeah.
are driving on the road. There are lots of things to see on the road.
Men were different back then.
Soon I
they just
will
laid bricks.
Be
Marc.
home, and I won't be on this here road no more.
All the letters he writes are the exact cadence of like all of Travis Kelce's tweets from like 2013.
And he's married to the lady from Freaks
Like,
and Geeks.
Today I saw a squirrel.
It's
End of thought.
adorable. He's real.
Yeah.
He's a real guy. You know?
Yeah, and so I mean I don't know if we've made it clear, but so he's hired to drive Shirley through the deep south, and confront all of the racist issues that they do while he's doing this concert. But it really does, like, I could see why, like, your mom would love this movie.
Yes.
It is
My mom?
It can be fun to send your mom in particular.
Ouch.
I mean, no, the collective mom.
I know.
Our mom.
The universal mom.
And
Well, yeah, I think it does prey on this a different sort of aspect of racial assumption, which is for a lot of like, the universal mom that is like, see, it wasn't so bad back then, which is like a prevailing Republican like thing. As like every time I'm sitting down with my grandma, it's always like some revisionist history thing about how like the antebellum era was like, no, they was all friends. The 60s, everybody was friends. No, they wanted to do that, all this kind of stuff. And it doesn't go like that far into that. It's just sneaky about how it does a lot of that stuff. It's very sneaky how this movie like shows that like, in the South it's a little hairy, but like the North, everybody's cool. There's good cops that pull you over and are gonna see you home and all that.
oh yeah. And I think so, like I was saying, like on one level, this is just a very comfortable like movie that if you leave aside all of the racial stuff, like it just leaves no trope unturned, they each learn lessons from each other. There's dramatic like confrontations in the rain. There's like kind of cartoonish racist guys they run into. The ending, I'm sure we can talk about, is so like just a fucking MasterCard commercial. Like every beat
Oh yeah.
of it is so expected. I think so the problems that people have with this, I think, start with this being kind of fundamentally Tony's story.
Yes.
And I mean, I think it's telling Mahershala Ali, who won Best Supporting Actor and is very good in this. I think too good for the movie, honestly. But it was like, this is very much a supporting performance because of how the movie, like, it starts with Viggo Mortensen's character and everything is kind of, we're given an easy way in through him, if you're a white person watching this. And it's kind of weird how he goes so quickly from that like early scene where these two black guys are in his house and he throws away their glasses or their like drinking glasses in the garbage after they've used them.
Which is pretty like, that's more than just being like a little nervous around a black person. That's like, you think they have diseases or something that you have to throw away their glasses.
But their journey has like barely started though, when he is already like outside of the concert hall playing around with the black service workers who aren't allowed inside. And he like very quickly, that stuff is just immediately erased from him. And I feel like the lessons that each of them learn in this are very unevenly distributed, where he like so quickly gets past all of this. Most of the movie is him teaching Shirley about, Little Richard and Chubby Checker and your people's music and how to eat fried chicken in the car with your hands. And I think the movie kind of takes that stuff at face value, that he really is helping him like reconnect with his black roots.
Which, if you wanted to be a little harsher on it, is like, hey, stay in your lane, buddy. Go back, where you came from a little bit, which is pretty uncomfortable.
And not just that, but like how to stand up for himself and how to relate to other people. I really feel like he is doing most of the teaching here. He gets to rescue him from the racists. He has to like beat up the guy who doesn't put out the right piano for him. And that stuff kind of escalates as this goes on. And I think that's probably the where the problems start for people with this. And it's not as overt like as Crash. It's not as like the miscalculation isn't so in your face there. But you could write a nice like series of essays about this movie, like dissecting the whole white saviorness of it all. And I think it would be a pretty good example. Anyone?
I see you raising your mic. Go ahead. No, you raised your mic. This is all. Okay. End of podcast. That's it. Let's start. Let's start at the top. I don't know.
Oh, we can get that out.
No, like
I think the most egregious part is a scene that I was in like a critical theory class in college, and I had not seen this movie, but I had seen the climactic scene like on YouTube, which is where they go to this. It's like the last performance of their run.
I think they're in Birmingham or something.
Yeah, and it's so weird how they seem to like rediscover that discrimination exists in every scene. Like they keep going to a new place and then being
can you
like,
believe it?
"What do you mean
Here
he
in
can't sit with
Kentucky?"
me?" Like, no, he's with me. He's the performer. He's sitting over here. Like, you guys have been running into this whole time.
Like the moment you left New York, this started happening to you.
And and he finally does decide, I'm not going to play here unless they let me eat in this dining room. But then he backs off of it and comes in and is like, gives the decision over to Tony. He says, "I'll play if you want me to." And then suddenly Tony is the one who gets to make fuck it. Let's get out of here. This is really about whether I get paid for doing this tonight, not whatever's going on with him. And it's like he gets the victory in that scene.
Well, I think they should have played that scene because part of me almost believes that scene was attempting to be like what he wants is for Tony to say he wants to leave it to Tony. It's like a test for Tony to do the right thing in that situation, and which is to say like, let's get the fuck out of here. I don't want to just like because that's part of what's going on with their relationship at that point, which is like, how do I trust this Tony guy? Is he just being nice just because he's just here to bullshit me or whatever and go home, and he's going to be racist when he gets back home or whatever? But like that's kind of the test there, but it's not highlighted in a way that actually gives that much. I feel like I have to push the scene to be like that in the end.
The stakes that were given are that like Tony has to get him to all of these shows to get the rest of his money. But then confusingly, there's this scene where Tony is talking to one of the guys in Shirley's band, and he's basically asking him like, why does he subject himself to this? Like, why is he coming down here, or why is the record label sending him down here? And he says something like, he doesn't have to do this. He could be playing, to the rich people, the rich liberals in New York, and like whatever. And there's some implication that like he's doing this like to push these people, or to like
push or
like
test
change
minds,
to challenge the culture and change their minds. But that's
not expanded on enough.
He just shows up at that final show where he's not allowed to eat in the main dining room and just acts like he is just like the hired entertainer for the night, and then totally like backs down from the opportunity to just do that like as his own kind of attack, like here I showed up, but you're not going to let me in the dining room. I'm ruining your Friday evening, ticketed perform whatever. And he giving Tony the decision. I didn't read it as necessarily like a test. I read it more as like well, he's the one who's got to get paid, as if Don Shirley isn't this like wealthy guy who could have like presumably just like given him his whatever he's owed for the back half of the tour or whatever. But that was like the almost like what the entire movie kind of hinged on. And then it was this like really, and then that they leave there when Tony decides that he's not going to go on and perform, and they go over to like the black bar like down the street. And you can imagine like exactly what's going to happen.
He has a great time, and he's like, "I'd play with those cats all the time."
He's going to play Chopin on the shitty upright out of tune piano on the blues bar stage, and everyone's going to go okay, and
But then they walk out into the parking lot, and then he like,
oh yeah,
there's like guys that are gonna waiting to jump him or whatever. And then like Viggo Mortensen like sees it a mile away and fires his gun into the air and scares him away, and he's like, never show cash at a bar or whatever like that. Like he's like still teaching this guy all that he needs to know in this world. Like I wind up liking Tony's character, and then I have to remember, which is like the aspect of his character that is communicated pretty plainly, like verbally to us, that he is like, how do you know all this? How are you so good at this? All this stuff. He always answers, I'm a good bullshitter, which is, I think, at the root of his character. And like the problem that I think it's like, it's not, again, it's just not subtext, it's text, that by the end, like, why would we trust that he's had some kind of real change? Like, he's good at, he's that white guy who's good at saying the right thing when he needs to, and like not being mean to your face maybe, and like whatever goes on behind his skull, like in his brain, is like one thing, but like he's not going to do it to your face. And that's how a lot of it winds up feeling. Not that he has like malicious intent, I think, by the end, or like, yeah, maybe he's learned like a little simple switch of like, well, you know, black people are people too, and I didn't realize that, or something. But it's like pretty shallow, because I think it does come down to like, Tony is a bullshitter. He's kind of bullshitting the audience in some ways, or even like at worst, like encouraging the audience to just like, well, just be nice, and you know, if they show up for Christmas, let them in at the end of the movie, but you know, just, you can talk about them when they leave.
So you think that he like he's disingenuous?
I think he's not totally trustworthy. I don't know how to read him, because I feel like he is just kind of like a performative character. He's like, I like emphasis on the word character, and
I think that might be more just like on how the movie just conceives him as like there's not much more to him than the surface. Like
I think
like
that's
maybe
true.
Genuinely, that
I don't think he's like
is-
manipulative, or he's like hiding stuff, because that's the whole thing. He's like an authentic salt of the earth guy, but he is, yeah, he's known for bullshitting and like putting a good spin on things. I feel like that's kind of his, like the good thing and the bad thing about his character.
And in the end, of course, he imparts like his final lesson to him about the importance of family. Like he goes back to his like empty, fancy loft apartment, and then they do the whole fucking hokey. Oh, he's not coming. Oh, there's a knock at the door. Oh, it's someone else. Oh, and there he is behind the person. Oh, Gene.
And the entire Italian family is fine
Arrested
with
Development.
it. Everybody's fine with it.
And yeah, which is a lot like the Planes, Trains, and Automobiles ending, isn't it?
It is very curious. And it is
makes
like,
you think.
the universal mom can immediately be like, see, I told you it wasn't so bad. It wasn't that bad back then. We weren't that mean. Come on.
And poor Linda Cardellini just has to be his Italian wife this whole movie.
Oh yeah, who's getting
Just
like
nothing to do but like be the receptacle for his letters or whatever else is going on.
She's so
And-
pretty.
Also,
Oh my
that part
God.
was funny to me that like Don Shirley finally can't take it anymore. Like watching Tony write these awful like subliterate letters home, and so he starts writing them or dictating them for him. And then when he finally meets his wife at the end, she's like, "Oh, I knew it was you writing those letters the whole time."
And the very
Kind
like
of a funny.
the very last scene is her hugging him. Like there's like a weird emphasis on that, or it's just like I don't even know. It's just like, oh, the beautiful like white woman hugging the black man, and it's all fine. Everything's beautiful.
There's like that
no one has to
moment where
worry ever.
The whole family goes silent and is looking at him, and you can like hear the crickets. And
Yep.
then the one cousin is like, "Well, come on, sit down. You're gonna miss the last meatball." And everyone like kind of has a sigh of
It's okay,
relief,
Marc can
like,
say
"Yeah,
that.
you're his friend." And it's all cool.
Yeah, there's like one moment where somebody says something kind of racial, and then Viggo Mortensen stands up and like is like, "Hey, maybe that's not such a nice thing to say." And then like it's immediately just taken as like, "Oh yeah, I guess I shouldn't have said that. Sorry."
Yeah,
It does it like, which is like, that's not that's not how correcting people's racial blindsides usually go.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
yeah, and he just like used one
in
of
my
the,
experience.
one of the like Italian slurs for black people that like get used in other parts of the movie and aren't like he's not getting upset about any of it's weird.
He just like takes it. You're just like, ah, sorry, you're right.
The
Absolutely.
movie takes a few opportunities to like assure the audience, like, don't worry, we're out of that racist Birmingham now. Like we're back safely in the North.
That one little stretch of America.
Yeah, the whole thing that it does where, first they encounter the racist cops, but they have to have a scene that's like, not all cops. And they have, another scary
out.
time that they're pulled over. Yeah, and the guy's like, "No, sorry, just wanted to," what do you say? Their tire was low or something.
Yeah, they've got a flat tire.
Like, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, he says Merry Christmas.
Just so we don't upset anybody too much with the depiction of law enforcement.
Oh yeah, that's
in
pretty
the film.
fucking low.
Yes, that is also when they have the run-in with the racist cops. That's kind of a big climactic moment in the movie because it's right before they have this like kind of fight where where Tony's telling Don that he's blacker than Don is, and Don gives this kind of like monologue about how hard it's been for him, like these two worlds he doesn't feel like he belongs in, either of them, whatever. But a scene that bothered me, and I don't know if this is maybe it seems like this would have to be a true story to some degree because it just seems so outrageous, but like the way they get out of jail when they get arrested by these racist cops that pull them over in a town that has like a sundown law where like black people can't be out on the roads after sunset or whatever, or maybe it's called a sunset law, I don't know, but anyway,
sundown.
They're in jail, and Don Shirley uses his phone call to call Bobby Kennedy, who like gets so again it's
just
like
wild.
It's like Don is just completely powerless to do like anything to actually like challenge any of these like white racists in the South in any way. The like kind of like needs either Tony there protecting him or in this one specific case Bobby Kennedy, but like
which makes a certain amount of sense of how like that is the only layer of protection that somebody would have.
You would need something that crazy to get out of that. Yeah.
But it makes it this just weird thing where all his character is doing is just going on this like tour. He's going on like this like weird like racist carnival ride where he just is experiencing all of these things in all of these different towns they stop in, and there's no like he just gets safely back to New York thanks to Tony, and then hey, now they're friends and he's coming over for dinner, and there's no Tony's growth all happens immediately. Basically, he's racist enough that he throws away the glasses the black guys are drinking out of that are fixing his sink or whatever at the beginning, and then as soon as he's given like $150, he is no longer racist.
Yeah, he's like,
and
then
over that shit right away.
So that's solved, and
black
then
people have money. All right,
and then it's like so then it's like we're just left with the rest of the movie that like Marc pointed out just kind of feels like the Tony show, and then Don Shirley's character is kind of just like there's no real like growth or development with him. There's one scene that is even more problematic for Tony's character. The YMCA scene that we haven't talked about, where Tony's called to come intervene after Don gets caught like hooking up with this guy in the pool.
Now that's the least realistic part of this movie.
Yes,
is that he not only has he suddenly shrugged off all of his prior prejudices, but he's like, yeah, that's he's with another guy. That's totally cool. Like, who cares? He has no problem whatsoever with that. And suddenly, this guy is the most like progressive 60s working class, formerly briefly racist bouncer
right.
You could
who's ever set foot in the South.
No, I know. That's one of the scenes that leads me to feel like he is like, it's hard not to, even if the movie is obviously like the director would tell me that's not true. It's like when Tony mentions that he's a bullshitter, it's hard for me to not just feel like, well, he's just yet again just smoothing it over there. It's like it's so hard to buy that this guy doesn't have any. Well, even in that like admission, he's just like, things I've been to the city. It's complicated because it's like I'm not gonna give him too much for that because it's not like he is like thinks that it's okay for two guys to get married or something. Like it's that
it's a very innocuous view.
It's enough for him to just
racism.
Kind of turn his head and ignore it so that he gets paid.
It's that whole idea that like, well, this is just the way that some people are brought up, but we're all really just good guys at heart. Like we can get past all of that stuff. That's like the way I was raised. It's not for me, but I just think everyone should just be able to do what they want to do. and that's just at the core of everybody, and that everything will be fine. That there's it really kind of, I think, absolves any kind of previous ideas that they might have had, or I don't know. It's just kind of like this flattering view, I think, that some people might be encouraged to have themselves of like, well, this wasn't the way that I was raised. Like, it's understandable that the coloreds I would have this particular view of, or maybe throw the glasses away, or give them kind of a look. But when it comes down to it, we're all like good people and have these values,
including me, who threw the glasses away.
Yeah, and anything that he'll run into, he's like, "Oh, you're trans? Yeah, I get it. Sometimes I feel like marinara instead of spaghetti sauce."
Hey. Well,
yeah,
it's
and
not
it's
a binary, is it?
Like saying like, "Oh yeah, I've worked in the New York clubs. Like I know the world's more complicated." Like whatever that line is that he says about it, but it's like, well,
and sure you do.
That guy would behave very differently in the rest of this movie if that were who Tony Lip was. Like he's like a guy that kind of worldly and with his like wits about him and a sense of the world, is not picking rocks up off the ground and like folding an entire pizza in half in his hotel room, and it just is. It's an insane scene.
I mean,
also that gets at like what some of the criticism from Don Shirley's family was sort of, I think, addressing, which kind of centered around like whether this was actually who that guy was and whether they were actually even close or even friends. Like, I think somebody from Shirley's family made the argument that, like, well, like, he resented having to like wear this uniform and hat and drive this black guy around, and like, so there's some conflict between the surviving family members of both of them about like the degree to which the relationship even looked anything like.
He never
this,
taught him to eat fried chicken.
Yeah, which
right.
just seems so offensive to even.
No, I know. So much of this, it's just so hard to buy and like stretch yourself with. But at the same time, there's like something about Tony's character where I'm just like, some of this is like the best I can hope for with my like racist grandpa, right? Like, is for like hoping that they'll just be a Tony, where it's just like, well, takes all kinds. I won't beat anybody up anymore. But
and we should point out that the movie was co-written by Tony Lip's son.
Yes.
He's not gonna probably be so inclined to portray his dad as a.
And he's obviously going to make it about Tony Lip.
Yeah.
Which I do think is a fair criticism of the movie. That it could have been more 50-50 here, in a way that does make Don's character feel kind of distant as like this other, where like like the audience is supposed to kind of be viewing and like trying to size him up and figure out who he is, rather than trying to size up as like, who is this Tony guy and can I trust him necessarily, and what are his shortcomings?
He's very much in the driver's seat, metaphorically,
that's
as
beautiful,
well as
Marc.
literally. In this, and then again, the whole movie is still just a very middle of the road, predictable kind of, Oscar movie.
Yes.
And the fact that it was up against, I'm going to read the other nominees now, the first two, which are hilarious, which is Black Panther, the first black-led superhero movie, Black Klansman by Spike Lee, which is the one movie that actually had footage from a place I already forgot the name of again.
Charlottesville.
From Charlottesville in it. And, it's very much kind of in this same vein of I don't know, milieu or like subject matter, but in a way more incendiary way than Bohemian Rhapsody. Fuck that movie.
I can't believe it. This is like actual trash cinema.
Then The Favorite, Roma, A Star Is Born, Bradley Cooper version, and Vice, whatever the fuck that ended up when they expanded it to 20 Best Picture nominees instead of 5. But yeah, especially with it, like if you were to watch all of those together and then be like, of course this is going to be the one that wins. And the footage of Spike Lee like standing up and facing away from the stage after it won, and that hilarious interview that we watched with him afterwards.
So good.
He basically was like, Let me put it this way: it's driving Miss Daisy with the white guy in the front.
And then he like makes a British guy joke because the interviewers are British or something.
Yeah.
Wasn't my cup of tea.
Yeah.
So sick. And then he like jumps in the air for joy. It's wonderful.
Are you British?
Yeah.
Are you British?
I am.
Let me give you a British answer. It was my cup of tea. Not my cup of tea.
And I do think that this movie did have a lot more criticism when it first came out, as opposed to, I think, Crash, the backlash built over time a little more to get its reputation that it has today.
Yeah.
Where this movie, I remember the discourse starting immediately around it. And it was a big hit. It made like a lot of money, especially for its budget. So, and I can see the appeal of it for sure, like much more so than Crash. But it is funny how they're kind of guilty of the same things in certain ways.
In like very different ways. One is like
Yeah.
very quiet. The other one is overly loud, like with what it.
Like this one is complacent, and Crash is like more brash and bold, and maybe
And defeatist. Like, well, they're both
Yeah.
defeatist in these different kinds of ways. Like of just like throwing up their hands and just like either there's no problem or like problem can never be solved. So we'll just gotta deal with it forever.
Yeah, it's really hard for me to like use one to give credit to the other because, they both fuck it up in different ways.
Green Book feels like very Obama. There's something like it's like it makes sense that like movie came out that like was like almost perfectly capped off that like era of
Yes.
like politics and how we like talked about race with this like, well, yeah, that's like the look at the like what like the articulate black man president like has to say about the like this sort of just like
And I
like,
voted for him.
white, yeah, it's like
I'd vote for him a third time if I could.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect. But yeah, like what both movies have in common is just this way that like it's you don't have to worry because there's a white guy pulling all the strings here and directing all the actors and writing all the words and it's gonna be fine.
It's just funny how it just when black people make movies on these topics, like go figure, like the tone and incisiveness of it is so
Strange.
much more complex than it is with
like
these other guys.
All the
With
real
fucking Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, all the real scary instances in Green Book of racism happening to Don Shirley. Those scenes begin with Tony getting a phone call at the hotel. Like that's where like we start there first. We're never alone really with Don Shirley, like with him.
Yeah, until
like,
he's
having,
alone and sad at the end.
Yeah, with him having these experiences of it. And I think like a black writer would have had a lot more perspective to bring to those
We get
scenes
to
in
know
the South
Tony's
than, like-
extended family. Like,
Yeah,
we don't
yeah.
know hardly anything about the other guy. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's funny that Mahershala Ali also won for Moonlight 2 years earlier. It just it seems like such a weird, like backwards thing that this kind of movie was still winning. But you really never know each year, like what is going to happen. Like then all of a sudden it's Parasite that wins everything, and it's like it's hard to put your finger on exactly how all this happens.
Yeah, I guess like when you look at
No idea.
I'm glad we talked about the other nominees in both years because maybe both of these movies aren't like quite as guilty of the things that they're criticized for as like the Academy is just guilty of like when there's a movie that confronts a social issue in a way that's actually like subversive or like impossible to look away from, like Brokeback Mountain or like a Black Klansman or something. Like, thank God there's one of these movies. Like, they will find one of these movies to give that
Yes.
award to. Instead.
So they can both not give the award to it and give the award to it, like
right.
the racial ideas and things like that. They can acknowledge them without acknowledging the harder to swallow ones, quote unquote, you know?
And strangely enough, this Peter Farrelly has gone on to direct like solo movies ever since this. I don't think there is a Farrelly Brothers movie that's been made since this, but it's all shit I've never heard of. He did these 2 movies with Zac Efron immediately after this. One's called The Greatest Beer Run Ever, and then The other one is called Ricky Stenicki, and they both look like comedies.
Enough of this issue stuff. Come on.
And this year he has
some beer.
He has a movie about the making of Rocky coming out, apparently, called I Play Rocky. That looks like it's supposed to be a drama. So who knows?
About some Italian guy.
Well, it sounds like Paul Haggis is probably done making movies, but Peter Farrelly, maybe we'll be talking about another one of these someday.
Maybe Viggo Mortensen will be playing Sylvester Stallone in the I Play
my
Rocky
God, I
movie.
look forward to that.
Yeah. So anyone unwatching this? Honestly, I'd be closer to unwatching this than Crash just because it's blander, but it's just so middle of the road that it's hard for me to get too worked up about it. I don't know. I guess I wouldn't unwatch either of them, but not because they're any good.
Yeah. I guess I feel similarly in that, like, I could more easily lose this one without even, like, knowing that it's gone, because that's its whole thing is kind of being only half there, only half attempting certain things, like filled with so much plausible deniability that you can just deny that the movie you even watched it or something. But I don't know. Some of it was sweet enough. I think it's more so that a movie like this falls into the wrong hands. That's like my main thing. Like, I feel like I can do a lot of the math to, make some of it work that doesn't work so well and stuff. It's just when it falls into the hands of the, like shitty conservative white family or something that wants to sweep these things under the rug, they can really take some liberties with what is like a little hazy here. I think that's kind of the problem with the movie. Yeah, for sure.
I would not unwatch this one either. I think I said this before, but I don't really get a lot out of like that thing where you sit down and watch a bad movie, like to watch a bad movie. Like that whole so bad it's good thing, but this genre might be something that I've discovered
sure.
I'm into, like white artist, like badly mishandling serious issues about race or something. There was something I laughed at Crash more. This movie I did laugh with a couple times. There's a couple sweet moments in there, I suppose, but mostly I'm not going to unwatch either of these because these are both movies that you watch with your mom, and who gets to spend enough time with their mom? Nobody. So it would seem mean to unwatch either of these.
Go visit her.
Yeah, The Blind Side we'll do next.
Oh, we should keep going. I think that'd be fun.
Dad, that's the sequel after she falls down the stairs.
Yeah, that's what she did. That's great.
She leaves Brendan Fraser and I don't know, does whatever the hell happens in The Blind Side.
So, as three people who have definitely not seen every Best Picture winner, I mean, I do feel like it's unlikely that there's a worse movie than Crash as far as like the scale of misconceived bad movies go that won Best Picture. I mean, looking through the list, there was nothing else that jumped out at me like that. I think it's probably a fair pick for that reputation. I don't know if that seems like a bridge too far for anybody else. I mean, I think it's definitely worse than Green Book.
Yeah.
I think they're both in the conversation, but
yes, Green Book still is like trying to like sneak out the back, like I didn't do anything wrong, but Crash is loudly crashing for sure. I kind of you are pulling at your hair, and some of it is just regardless of if they should have known better at the time or not. It's just we can't help but see it. We cannot help but see it as an audience member now. Oh my God.
Yeah, Green Book in the end is like a version of a biopic, and if it was going to be made about these real guys who lived and had this relationship, there was no avoiding this stuff. And Crash, just none of that needed to happen with like that like focus on race as an issue. And so I think just the damage it did to the brains of the people who it sort of gave permission to keep being and thinking that way, sort of in the guise of like healing our racial divide. I think it's easy win for Crash to be the worst Best Picture. I did look at the whole list to see if I've ever seen anything really egregious on there, and nothing jumped out at me either. But you know, maybe one bit of credit we could give to Crash here is we've now done Green Book, Crash, and Birth of a Nation when it comes to films that address race. It's not as bad as that.
Yeah, well, at least Birth of a Nation didn't win Best Picture, so
Did they even have that?
to compare those two.
I don't think they had it yet.
I don't think they had those little golden Oscar.
The year
boys.
Trash Humpers won.
Big
That-
upset.
I don't know what they were thinking.
Big upset. Well,
All right. Well, yeah, check us out. Hopefully we get to hear from everybody at the Oscars live stream and argue about the movies that I think are much less controversial this year. Like, I'm not sure that there's a movie that could win that would be awful. I haven't watched Hamnet yet, and I'm not looking forward to it. Who knows? Maybe I'll be wrong. That maybe this year feels like the safe, kind of disappointing, unexciting choice. But I'm not sure there's anything that is like that would be offensive.
No,
if it
it's
weren't,
No.
especially in the year of Sinners, which I think is one of the ones that they're expecting could very possibly win. As far as there being like a direct insult to that black dominated movie, you know.
right. Yeah, it's one of the. There are a couple good movies in there, but it's one of those years where it's kind of a boring selection as far as like the potential for something fun to happen on the screen during the awful telecast we're going to watch.
yeah,
So
it's like,
come hang out and we'll try to predict who wins. March 15th, Sunday, 7 p.m., something like that. We'll post about it. Also, we're launching a Discord. You can talk to us on there. If you're listening to this, the details of that are already online, right?
yeah.
Yeah. If you love Green Book, get on there and tell us why we're wrong. Why Seth's wrong. But my points were well taken.
I soft unwatched it as well. I'm a good citizen.
All right.
We're good.
Wait, mic drop.
I think right now we're fading in the David Matthews song. Yeah.
Unwatchables is produced by Tony Scarpitti, hosted by me, Marc Dottavio, and Seth Troyer, with artwork by Micah Kraus. You can find Seth and I on Letterboxd under Marc Dottavio and Sloth Troyer. You can also check us out at unwatchableспod.com for links to our Twitter and Instagram, or support us on Patreon for bonus content and to have a say in what we watch. Thanks for listening.